Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Rudskogen is Norway's premier racing circuit and is now considered the national centre for motorsport following an extensive government-funded rebuild. And what a track we have brought to you today, the newest edition on iRacing. Welcome to round 6 of the SRF Weekend Warrior Series presented by RaceVoice. My name is Sebastian Borscher-Williams. Alongside me in the commentary booth we have Stevie Ray, and on production in the virtual production truck we have the one, the only Jonathan Grabowski, as we get ready to go racing for another time this season. Stevie, you know, what a race we saw 1 week ago. I mean, these cars never fail to deliver. We've now come to a completely different style of circuit, a circuit that I'm sure some of our drivers might not have even, you know, driven before this week. You know, how do you see this race playing out?
Yeah, it's going to be a learning curve, the whole race for these guys. Some of them have got some official races during the week. Some of them have not, other than the practice for this. So it's a very short track. It's a lot of curves. It looks like it's nice and wide in places, but there is really not much racing room or passing room. So it's going to be a lesson learning phase the whole race on this one.
Certainly will be. As you see, well, a driver that it's not only commanded, you know, speed around several other tracks this season, but certainly around this circuit as well. That's Marco Pinheiro, currently the quickest driver in qualifying, heading through turns 1 and 2. The long right-hander of turn 2, really tricky off camber, as you can see on the exit as he heads up towards turn 3. So Pinheiro doing a great job, and this man as well, the 73 of Dudu Castro, another driver really relishing, you have to say, Stevie, the new circuit today, only a tenth or so off Pinheiro, looking very good. In fact, Castro improves ever so slightly on his last attempt, so Castro still able to find some time out there, could be looking at potentially getting a pole position.
Yeah, Dudu's been a little off this season. Last season he seemed to be up and getting the poles and running the front row a little more often, but with his new track, it's given him a little new life for this week anyway. So he's definitely up there contending for it.
He certainly is, and we'll have to see if that can continue into the race session as well. As we just have a look at, well, another driver who has done supremely well this season, Jorg Meine, currently in 5th place in qualifying, but it's no real surprise, the lead of the Masters class. And, you know, we've had some really, you know, huge races in the past few weeks, haven't we, Stevie, in terms of championship points, lots of sort of movers and shakers, as it were, with the point standings. I wonder, Stevie, if you might be able to let us, or to go through the points with the viewers, just to update them on where everybody stands in the championship standings.
Yeah, Mauricio Naselli's already got a pretty strong lead in the Spec 1 class at 506. Jason Green having a good season this season. Back there is at a little more than 100 points back at 387. Felix Smo's hanging tight, 3rd, and then as you mentioned, Marco Pineros looks to try to improve today to climb up that roster a little bit. Steven Elson, Jeff Fisher, Megan Overstreet, Yongxi Lin in 8th, Andalo 9th, and Bobby West in the top 10 in your Spec 1 class. Spec 2 is a little bit tighter. Andre Favini is sitting there on top with 303. Not that far back is Kuzma Lesnoy, 282. He's been pushing Favini this season. Alan McCain is also sit there on 282, so he's definitely a contender. And we got Gary Wolbolt, Paul Jackson, Ian Gibson, Joshua Justice, Jarvis Delago, Aaron Vagley, and Christopher Smith for the top 10 in the Spec 2. And the Masters, Jorg Meine has really commanded this season. He's sitting there with 110 points basically lead over Miro Haraski, and Tom Gradwell's steady in 3rd. Marcus Burkett, Chris Murakami, Stephen Mitchell, Adam Bradshaw, Kenneth Batley, Jim Brewster, Michael Jean, and Kurt Nunez sitting there in the top 10.
Thank you so much, Stevie, and really interesting to see how tight the championships standings are at the moment. All to play for then as we head into round 6. We see Naselli really finding some pace out there. Maurizio Naselli in the 44, going 400ths of a second behind his teammate Marco Pinero. Naselli finding space, but I tell you what, finding pace, I should say. But Stevie, they're not finding space out there. It's a really short circuit today, just a hair over 2 miles the circuit length, and not a lot of opportunity really to find a little bit of free air to really, you know, get into your own rhythm. So qualifying really tricky out there at the moment for these drivers.
Yeah, it's really a tight track. Some of the guys commented to me before the race that they're in the officials. There was several off tracks and slowdowns, and a little concerned how the slowdowns were going to work with so many cars on track. They're really going to have to be careful, not create an issue when they get a slowdown and have to back off of it. So have to get out of the way and kind of be safe with those slowdowns. So kind of watch for that. That may play an important factor in this race today.
That's a really good point. Of course, you know, this track sort of almost unanimously known already for the ease of getting those off tracks and slowdowns. So yeah, that might play a little bit of a factor in today's race. That's Jeff Richter there, very much going wide on the exit of turn 12. Not ideal, and will undoubtedly have invalidated his lap time as he rounds the final corner of turns 14. He gets onto the back straight. He's got a little bit of a slipstream up ahead of him from one of the Masters car, and you know, it's not going to be like Watkins Glen, is it, Stevie, with, you know, how dominant slipstream was there, but it's still going to be, you know, a nice bonus to have on a qualifying lap. And if you can find, you know, a little bit of a slipstream down the front straight, maybe on the exit of turn 2 down to turn 3, it could certainly, you know, bump you up a few places if you're lucky.
Yeah, exactly. The draft is going to give you a little bit of help on here, but nothing like you mentioned there for Watkins Glen. They're going to look for a little bit of draft on the straight here, and everybody's so close, you get a little bit of help, and you're going to bump up, as you explained, a couple, 3 spots maybe.
The Megan Overstreet, the 044 car. What can she do? Currently in 18th place in the standings, a woman at 31.428, the quickest time that she has set so far. Compared that to Pinero's 30.213. So Megan's still got a little bit of time to find out there as she heads through the chicanes of turns 5 and 6. Up towards turn 7, the really long left-hander slow braking zone of turn 8, down the hill of the kink of turn 9 towards the hairpin of turn 10. Have to brake early as it's downhill. It always catches at least me out, and I'm sure other drivers as well. Head over to the right-hand side of the track to open up turn 11 as we see a little bit of a blink there from Megan. This is turn 12. It's so easy to run wide, so easy to get into the grass, and that's always perfectly illustrated from Megan there. 2 cars off the circuit on the outside of turn 14. I think that might have been Gibson and another driver. Almost looked like they'd had a little bit of a coming together as we head down to the final 45 seconds or so of qualifying. Marco Pinero on pole, Maurizio Nicelli second, Dudu Castro third. It's really anybody's bet of who's going to get pole, although I think Dudu Castro is, Stevie, just coming out on an outlap, which means that, well, he's not going to be able to get around to start a lap time, and he's gone back to the pits, and that fairly confirms my suspicions there.
Yeah, I think he saw the time on it and said, never mind. So
I'm hearing that Yangji Lin, another driver to have not gotten a time in, and that's a real big shock. He was oh so quick 1 week ago, and well, he's almost being pushed into the pits by another car. I wonder, is Lin experiencing some technical issues with his wheel there? Because it doesn't look like he has any form of controllability, and he's now veering across the racing circuit. Thankfully doesn't impede anybody on their final laps, but Lin, very curious issue at the moment.
yeah, it's kind of strange. Like you said, it's almost like he lost connection, lost his steering input. I know he's supposed to be going back over to China before too long and wasn't going to be able to finish out the season with us, so he may be looking, or earlier anyway, looking to have some fun and start from the back, but it definitely looks like he may have some equipment problems now.
Yeah, we'll have to keep our eye on that and see if Lin is able to take the race start. So qualifying is now finished. Drivers are able to complete their laps as long as they cross the start-finish line with a little bit of time left on the qualifying clock. Kane Latsky heading through turn number 3, up the hill through 4, into the braking zone of turn 5, the chicane. Very tricky part of the racing circuit, uses all of the inside curb. He should just be able to get this lap in, although actually I'm not sure if Latsky managed to cross the line in time to actually start his final qualifying attempt. So 6th place might be the highest place that Latsky will be able to start. A driver though who is improving, Chris Murakami, green through sector 2. What can he do through sector 3? Well, not a personal improvement, so he'll have to hope that that sector 2 improvement can carry him through sector 3 as he rounds the final corner. Murakami heads into the pits, and that's a little bit of damage to the back of the 901 car. As we see, Nicelli cannot improve, so Nicelli will have to settle for 2nd place, and as the minutes tick down, it's looking ever and ever more likely that Marco Pinero, CV, will be our pole sitter.
Yeah, the teammates work together a little bit, and they have the front row as of now. It looks like some of the guys may have a little hangover from yesterday. There was a big SCCA iRacing event, and a lot of the Weekend Warriors participated in that. It almost looked like a Weekend Warrior race, so they may have a little bit of hangover from that race yesterday.
That's a really, really good point there, Stevie. Well, qualifying then done and dusted, and here is your grid for today's race. And confirmation then that Marco Pinheiro is your pole sitter. 1 minute 30.213 was the pole time. Maurizio Naselli, 400ths of a second off Pinheiro. He'll start alongside him on the front row. Third, Dudu Castro. Great qualifying performance by him. I do believe that's his best qualifying performance of the season. Jason Green starts in fourth. Jörg Meine in fifth place. The pole sitter in the Masters class. Kane Latsky in sixth. Jason Perry starts seventh with Kumoy Lesnoy in 8th place, and the pole sitter in the Spec 2 class, Antonio Rees Gennett in 9th place, and Bobby West rounds out your top 10. Miro Haratsky in 11th place with Michael Nelson starting in 12th place. 13th place and the first driver to qualify a second slower than the pole time. Just goes to show how tight this field is. It's Jim Brewster in 13th place. Chris Murakami lines up alongside him in 14th place. In 15th place, we have Mark Carter with Jeff Fritzter starting alongside him in 16th place. Tom Gradwell in 17th, Megan Averstreet 18th, Ian Gibson in 19th place with Jeff Jacobson rounding out your top 20. Jesus Rodriguez in 21st place with Kurt Nunez starting alongside him in 22nd place. Marcus Burkitt in 23rd with Stephen Mitchell alongside him in 24th place. Mateus Vega in 25th place. Adam Bradshaw starts alongside him in 26th. Paul Jackson 27th with Brian Short in 28th place. Gianni Longjin in 29th with Berry starting in 30th place. That's Philip Berry in 30th. Jeff Cantor 31st with Nick Carty in 32nd place. And we'll move around on my screen. Andrea Favini 33rd. Darren Kuhn 34th. Sean Vincent 35th with Mark Sherman in 36th place. Gary Volpolt 37th. Yang Jilin in 38th place. Andreas Bertoni 39th. And Flavio Andalo in 40th and last place. And I have to see if everybody has managed to make their way to the start, and I do believe Stevie will have all 40 cars taking the start today. So what a race we are in for tonight.
Yeah, the Andrew he's starting in the back as always, so that will be entertaining watching him come through, and looks like he will be bringing some friends.
Oh, he certainly will be. So, well, how amazingly is this race set up for us tonight? Pinheiro, Naselli, Castro, Meine, all real main big hitters of this season, and they will be starting in the top 5. And further down the field, we have, some new names, which is always welcome, and some familiar faces as well. Tell you what, Chris Murakami is a driver that I'll be looking out for particularly. We know, Stevie, how quick he can be in race trim, but I want to sort of bring the viewers' attention to turn 1. It's uphill. It's similar to Kota, where the Formula 1 is currently at, but it's uphill. It means you can brake late. You can sort of make a move to the inside, but it's not without its perils. Do you think that turn 1 might be a little bit of a problem area in the opening few laps tonight?
Turn 1 will definitely be a challenge in the first few laps. The cold tires going up there. These guys have not practiced kicking off, going full force into turn 1 on cold tires with a group. They're going to have to brake earlier than normal. So yeah, watch out for turn 1.
Certainly, I concur with that. So they all round turn 11, or turn 10. This is now turn 12, getting all confused. It's one of my first broadcasts here at the new Rudskogen track in Norway. What an amazing circuit we have on iRacing. An amazing race that we are about to get underway. We're all eyes now to Marco Pinheiro. He's the pole sitter. He can decide when he wants to get this race underway. Naselli leads the second pack as we look now to get a good start. Pinheiro goes early. Naselli, though, manages to stick with him. Castro got a little bit caught out in third as they all head down towards turn 1. And actually, it's the 95 car of Jörg Meine having a little bit of a look down the inside. He's going to lose out of position as we see further down the order. I think Cantor might have had a little bit of an issue. Oh, cars heading left, right, and centre. Cars really struggling to navigate their way through turn 1. That's a the 550 car onto the apex of turn 2. He'll get away with that as they head now down the run towards turn 3. Panero still manages to stay in the lead. Naselli gaining in onto the braking zone. Castro having a little bit of a look, and don't count out 4th place man Jason Green looking very, very racy in this opening stages of the race. Jorgmani in 6th place, losing a place to Kane Latsky then in the opening few corners of this race. But Stevie, that was, I think, a little bit cleaner than I was expecting. Had a little bit of a kerfuffle in the mid-pack, but looked fairly clean for the most part.
Yeah, but let's take a look at the replay and see what happened in turn 1 this time.
I think, as we see, this is the replay then heading up towards turn 1. Jim Brewster in the 933 car being sent by down the inside, going to be contact made. Oh, and then it's a little bit of a concertina effect, but remarkably clean, and that's how the 550 car got forced onto the grass. Everybody
did a pretty good job of avoiding. They get on the inside and turn Jim a little bit, and then everybody had to kind of spread wide to avoid it, but good job.
I'd certainly have to concur with that, Stevie, remarkably well, especially, you know, don't underestimate the difficulties that you may have. What has happened though to Jorgmani dropping down the timing towers in 9th place under pressure from Bobby West? In fact, scrap that, Bobby West getting past him. Is Jorgmani got a little bit of an issue, and I wonder, Stevie, you mentioned it in qualifying, how easy it is to get a slowdown around the circuit. Has he picked up a little bit of a slowdown, because Mani losing places?
Yep, that would be my guess, because it looks like he's back up to speed. So now those S's, when you go to the inside and chop a corner a little bit, it gives you a slowdown. When you go wide, it just gives you an incident. That's not such a big deal, but like right there, you can see if you chop the inside of that corner too much or some other corner, it's going to give you a slowdown, and you got to back up 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds.
And what's, you know, I'm racking my brain to try and think about the last time we saw Jorgmani make a little bit of a mistake. Very rare to see him do. Oh, down the inside goes Hratsky on Megan Overstreet. Gets the move done, but not without a little bit of contact at the apex of turn 10. Through the kink of 11 we go into turn 12 as we have a look at the moment. That's Mark Carter in the 318 car. Wide though from the 917 of Stephen Mitchell. Mitchell having to really collect up that understeer that you saw as we started to have a look at the Danish driver. Very wide there from the 11th car. That's Andreas Bertoni. Bertoni, Stevie, is already up 14 places, so a great opening few laps from him once again.
Yeah, how surprising is that? It's like I said, it's Bertoni watch. He's coming through, and he's going to be bringing some of his buddies that started back there with him. But yeah, as we noted, Jorgmani's down to 13th overall. Looks like he's 3rd in the Masters. We've got Antonio Reese, and Chris Murakami has got past him in the Masters. Lesnoy, Kumos Lesnoy.
Oh, contact! Oh. Sorry to cut across you there. That was Bertoni into the back of Mateus Vega. Vega falling down the order like a rock. And unfortunately for him, and that looked a little bit like Andreas Bertoni's fault. Stevie, I think we're going to have a replay. Can you talk us through it?
Sure, yep. We get these fast drivers like Bertoni, he's coming through, and the guys ahead of him that aren't quite as quick will be braking a little bit earlier than what he's used to. Coming in, and there you go, a little tap, and off goes Matthias.
For Matthias, they're really unlucky. Of course, you know, a driver that was also competitive at Watkins Glen, to name one track that he's been very quick and not the race that he would have been looking for.
He had pole there at Watkins, so you know he can get it done.
He certainly can. Good memory, certainly better than mine, Stevie's. I'll tell you what, this is a really interesting battle on the circuit at the moment. So we've got Jason Perry in 6th, Lesnoy 7th, Reese Gennett in 8th place. All 3 different classes. And of course, you know, we've mentioned Stevie over the course of the season there. It doesn't really matter what class you're in, because the higher up the field, the more points you score. But just going to show we have 3 different classes all separated by, well, less than a second or so on the racing circuit. Riding on board on the back of Lesnoy as he heads through turn 3, up the hill through the kink of turn 4 towards the chicanes of turns 5 and 6. And Lesnoy really putting on a lot of pressure ahead, or trying to put on pressure, I should say, to Jason Perry ahead of him, but Antonio Rees really looking quick at the moment in the background. Such a fascinating fight on the circuit.
Yeah, like you said, you get 3 different classes going. When they're there, they're not really thinking about that. They're just racing with each other. Each position has more points. Jason Perry's been around a long time. He's raced with us off and on. And Kuzma Lesnoy is leading the Spec 2, so he's going to want to hang in there. Antonio Rees leading the Masters. He's going to be pushing for more points. The more position he gets ahead of Murakami, the more he gains on Murakami and Monty as well, for that matter.
Fritzster then being overtaken by Jorg Meine. Meine getting up into the top 11 after that mistake at turn 1 on the second lap. We think a slowdown befell Jorg Meine. Next up though is Chris Murakami. These two have a little bit of history on the racing circuit, and I wonder, how much does Chris Murakami want to fight this? Does he allow Jorg just to, you know, ease past, or do you think Murakami is going to be racing there? Because this is, you know, for second place in class and for 10th place overall.
Yeah, it's still early in the race. We're before pit stop, so if Monty shows Murakami he's faster than him, I don't expect Chris to really fight it too much. He would let Monty go by and try to back onto the back of Monty and see if he can't get pulled up farther. If this were later in the race, I would expect a lot harder fight from Murakami over Monty. So if, like I said, if Monty shows a nose a few times, I think Chris will let him go.
Really good insight there, and well, I think you've instantly been proven right, Stevie. Jorg Meine getting ahead of Chris Murakami. Now up into 10th place goes Jorg Meine. Tolatsky and Rees and Lesnoy all still having a great scrap for 6th place, and Perry's starting now to be involved in on this fight as well, and don't count out 9th place Bobby West, and well, Meine, Murakami, Fritzster and Nelson all in the background as well, so this could be getting very, very tasty in a few laps of time. This is your race lead though, with Marco Pinero still leading the way. He's led every lap of the race so far. In fairness, all 6 of them, I think, are probably feeling a little bit longer from the cockpit, just as how much pressure that Naselli is putting on to the back of Marco Pinero. Duda Castro in 3rd. Green still sort of holding base with the top 3 in 4th place, and Green looks quick, and you know, Green's got a real good opportunity today to not only get on the podium, but you know, could potentially get the race win. So it's all to play for, really, in the top 4.
Yeah, he's doing a really good job. I like what he's doing, just kind of hanging on to the back of the 3 leaders, kind of watching what's going on. He's also saving a little bit more gas by doing that, and his pit stop might be a little quicker. So you could see him possibly jump up to 2nd or 3rd after the pit stops. After that, I think you'll see him driving a little bit harder than he is now. But I like what he's doing. Just hanging there watching.
It certainly proves to be beneficial when you head to the latter stages of the race. Just fuel saving, maybe a little bit of tyre saving going on as well for good measure. See, that's very wide from Jeff Jacobson as he rounds the final corner of turn 14. Megan Overstreet now getting interested, trying to find her way past, and in fact I think has the move done. And just now Rodriguez trying to make the move past Jacobson and up into 18th place, and by the time they hit the braking zone for turn 1, Rodriguez is ahead of Jeff Jacobson, and Jacobson with that mistake lost at least 2 positions. And just sort of goes to show the nature of this track, doesn't it, Stevie? If you get offline, even for a few corners or so, it can really hurt your lap time, and it can really, really be detrimental to your overall race chances.
It really can. This thing is so tight and twisty that to maintain your maximum speed and the best lap time, there is basically a one line through here. You get offline and you've got to come off the throttle a little more, you got to hit the brake a little more, and your times are going to suffer, and you're going to drop back several positions.
That was Mark Carter going very wide through turns 7 and 8. Almost thought he was going to be off the racing circuit, but I think he just about managed to keep it within the white lines. But Carter really struggling out on the circuit at the moment as we head into turn 12 that is. And once again, you know, Carter looking a little bit wayward as we ride now on board, looking back towards Kurt Nunes. Nunes in the Masters class, trying to find his way up into the top 15, and Carter just sort of has had a really sort of scruffy lap or so, Stevie. And tire temperature, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, is fairly important within these cars, and it just looks like the tire temperature is building a little bit too quickly, and Carter just needs to calm it down for a few corners or so.
Yeah, exactly. Once you start sliding around a little bit much, the tire temperature will go up on these, and they will get really squirrely under you. And it takes a few corners, a lap or so with this smaller track for the tire temperatures to cool back down a little bit where you have normal grip. It doesn't take much, and your tires get angry at you, and they don't like you.
And you certainly do not want angry tires. They really dictate how the car handles. Tell you what, this man though is handling this race very nicely. Andreas Bertoni up 16 places, currently in 23rd place, although had that little bit of an incident with Matheus Vega a few laps ago. Next up for Bertoni is Andrea Favini. Favini has been very quick so far this season. Not necessarily been the best showing from Favini today, but you know, certainly keeping Bertoni behind him at this phase of the race. 12 minutes gone out of the 40 minutes, wide from Bertoni on the exit of turn 12. That won't be helping him whatsoever. He needs to be careful, doesn't he, Stevie, that, you know, it is easy to get a few off tracks, to get a few slowdowns, but once again, Bertoni looking to make the move past another car. Bertoni managed to keep it tighter through turn 14, and by the time they hit the brakes for turn 1, I do believe Bertoni will be ahead of Andrea Favini. That's certainly the case. This Rees-Lesnoy battle starting to form into two halves. We've got Latsky and Rees. It's down the inside. There goes Jorg Meine on Bobby West. West is going to have to back out, and Jorg Meine, with a superb move through turn 3, finds himself up into 9th place. Next up for Meine is Lesnoy. But as I mentioned, Stevie, Rees, the gap between Antonio Rees and Lesnoy is almost, you know, 1.6 seconds. So Jorg Meine needs to get this done quick if he wants any hope of catching up to the back of that battle for 7th.
Yeah, Monty's coming, and he's coming fast. He gets past Lesnoy, and he will be the next position behind Antonio Rees leading. So Antonio's lead over the Masters in points-wise in this race is virtually evaporated.
It really, really has fascinating race here then. So Meine trying to stalk the back of the 311 car of Lesnoy through turn 14, but that ends up with a whole chunk of understeer for the 925 driver. What's happened to Megan Overstreet, falling down the order at a fairly rapid rate, now in 20th place. Well, she's got going once again, but Megan Overstreet really losing positions fairly rapidly out on the circuit, and I wonder if this is why. On the exit of turn 12, we're going to hit the grass. No, we managed to survive turn 12. Is it going to be turn 13? Stevie, talk us through it.
There she carried a little too much speed in. The back came around on her. Typical off speed or off throttle oversteer with too much speed, and around she went.
And that's really allowed Bradshaw to get up on to the back of Overstreet. Heading into turn 3 we go, and there's a familiar name and a familiar car livery of Andreas Bertoni, I should say. Bertoni looking at trying to make up a few more places as he heads through the chicane up towards turns 7 and 8. The really challenging turn 8 corner. It seems to go on forever. It just gets tighter and tighter, and then when you think it's all over, it gets even tighter. Really difficult section of the racing circuit, but certainly one of my favorites, and it feels so good if you can manage to master turn 8. Megan Overstreet and Bradshaw and Bertoni actually all managing it very well, but Megan Overstreet wide and almost squirrely through the exit of turn 11 into turn 12. Bertoni takes the place and heads up past Bradshaw. Adam Bradshaw demoted to 22nd place. Bertoni up into 21st as they round turn 14. Megan Overstreet now will be having to look in the mirrors as she's got a very quick Andreas Bertoni right behind her.
Andreas is so good at capitalizing on small mistakes that other people make. He drives through the pack, he waits, and when somebody makes a small mistake, he capitalizes. And there we see an unusual mistake bobble from Andreas, but I think he's going to manage to hold on and hold Megan off going into the next corner here. But yeah, he is so good at capitalizing on other mistakes.
He really is. I'm really keen to know why Bertoni decides to start from the back of the grid. I mean, it provides us with action at every single race. What has happened to Castro? There's a little bit of a change on our graphics for the top three, although I think that's all resolved itself. So very much status quo then for your top three. False alarm, do apologise if you are a Panera Nisseli or Castro fan. We have a look maybe at a little bit of a replay. So this is heading down towards turn 10, so the hairpin, the downhill braking zone. Is Nisseli going to go off the circuit? Oh yes, he is. Lock up there, and that's going to allow Castro to have a little bit of a look on the outside. They head up towards turn 11, and well, that's why we saw Pinero disappear off our timing stands very quickly. He disappears from the racing circuit as we head back to your live pictures. And well, it's the status quo. Pinero leads Nisseli, leads Castro, leads Green. Is Haratsky one of the first drivers, Stevie, to head into the pit lane. We've got, what, 23 or so minutes left of the race, so certainly pit window is open, but a very early stop there from Mio Haratsky.
Yeah, we're over 15 minutes in. Typically they start a little over 10 minutes in, so if I'd have been out there, you would have seen me in the pits a little after 10 minutes in. So he's definitely leading the pack of early pit stops. We'll see how that transpires through the rest of the race for him.
It's the Perry Letsky Reese fight still very much ongoing. This is over 5th place now with Jason Perry in the lead. Kane Letsky right behind him, and Antonio Reese bringing up the rear, and York Miney slowly gaining lap by lap. The last lap, Miney was almost 0.5 of a second quicker than the pair ahead of him, so York Miney is looking strong. We ride on board as we head through turn 12. A little bit wide there from all involved, really showing how understeery the spec racer Ford can be at times. Oh, Miney really pushing the entrance through turn 14. Almost feels like he's going to career off the track, Stevie, but gets it nicely hooked up at the second part of the apex as we head down the back straight. As you see up ahead of you, Latsky and Perry having a little bit of a scrap. Will Reese decide to send it to the inside? Well, Antonio thinks better of it for this lap, but really close racing at the moment, as I think Nelson and Carter swapping positions. Carter now up into 12th place, and I wonder, is Michael Nelson falling down the order fairly rapidly? Certainly lost, I think, a few places through turns 1 and 2 there, Stevie.
Yeah, I was just watching Monty catching Reese. Reese had a good points differential on the rest of the Masters, and like I said, now it's gone. Manny's right there. There is no points differential now, based 1 point or whatever, and Monty's caught him. So we'll see what happens after the pit stops, but I think your Masters leader is showing why he's dominating the class so much. He fell way back, and now he's right back in the thick of it.
Change for second place then. Castro getting past Nisseli, and is that a little bit of a mistake there from Maurizio Nisseli? Let's have a look and see if we can determine what has gone on for the 44 car. Through turn 10 we go once again. See if it's going to be a little bit of a move from Dudu Castro or a mistake from Nisseli.
Looked like Nisseli went a little wide, and Dudu just took advantage of it, put it underneath, and perfect execution.
So that is how Dudu Castro managed to get up into second place. Oh, car off the track there. That's Rodriguez, Jesus Rodriguez, falling down the order. The 76 car, that's on the exit of turn 12. And remarkably, Jesus will get away without any form of contact between another driver almost spearing across the track is never a pleasant experience in a racing car. And it just seems like Rodriguez has gone a little bit too quick on the exit of turn 12, taking a little bit too much speed in. And about the effects, maybe contact related. Stevie, what do you make of Rodriguez's spin?
I couldn't really tell what happened going into it. Either he got on the curb and carried a little too much speed and had some off throttle, but it either a little touch or the typical off throttle oversteer on it. One of the two.
That's demoted Rodriguez back down to 26th place. So a lot of work for him to find the pace, just like your Miney, although Miney's been a fairly spectacular example of how to drive a recovery race. And Miney, as you were rightly saying, Stevie, on the back of Antonio Reese. So that's the battle for the win in Masters. But you know, Miney also wants as many points as possible, and he's got Perry and Latsky just ahead of him. So it's sort of four abreast as they head down towards turn 1. Miney and Reese go side by side. That's for this Masters class victory. And by the time they hit the brakes, well, that looked a little bit orchestrated there. And Reese, I think, knowing that Miney was a little bit quicker, decides not to fight. And York Miney, once again, is the leader in the Masters class.
Yep, I think you called it. Antonio realized how fast Monty has been lately and just decided to let him through and see if he can't follow him and if they can't get in front of both of these guys.
So what can he do? Miney past Latsky. So Latsky falling fairly quickly to Jorg Miney's staunch, aggressive driving so far in today's race. And Miney now in 6th place. Only ahead of... But go on, Stevie.
I was going to say, that's not what Antonio wanted to see. He wanted to stick with Monty and go right up. Now he's got a car in between, and there's some points differential there. So he was hoping to stick on Monty's tail.
Certainly think you're right there, Stevie, and not worked out for Reese, although Latsky might be a little bit more vulnerable down the straight as we head into turn 12 once again. A little bit of understeer from the 97 of Jason Perry, and Miney just looked so calm and collected at the wheel. Really doesn't have too much understeer or oversteer. That car looks perfectly balanced on the exit now of the final corner down towards turn 1. We've seen moves been made so far in this race. Will we be able to ag Jorg Miney over Jason Perry? Not on this occasion. Miney just has to back off, has to wait a little bit longer to be up into 5th place once again. And Stevie, you know, I thought the turn 1 today was going to prove to be, you know, where most of the action was going to happen, but you know, is turn 3 a little bit of a better opportunity to get an overtake done?
It could be a little farther, a little more straightaway, a little more room to do it, and come down inside on the corner than turn 1. So it definitely looks like it's playing a little bit better to these guys' plans. So now we see Monty has gotten past, we call him JP, Spider-Man, Jason Perry. So
that was a perfect illustration of why turn 3 is a little bit better for an overtake. So Miney gets past JP and up now into 5th place goes York Miney, Perry in 6th, Latsky 7th, Reese in 8th place. And then this is a battle for 9th place between Bobby West and Chris Murakami. Chris Murakami trying to find his way up into the top 9. Murakami at 4 spots from where he started, so a good opening stint. But of course, Stevie, we've got pit stops to go and pit window is very much open. I think we'll see drivers starting to dive into the pit lane fairly soon, and that could really open up this race once again. But certainly been a really fascinating opening 25 minutes of racing.
yeah, we're going to get really busy in the pits here real soon. So you'll see these guys peeling off and doing their pit stops, trying to see if they can undercut somebody in front of them. And they said Murakami's been coming through. He's up to 10th. He's 3rd in the Masters, so he's looking good as far as points. The next one down is Bradshaw in 16th, so he's got a pretty good gap in points-wise on the next Masters.
And a driver that had a very fascinating qualifying, Yang Zi Lin, currently finds himself in 19th place, and in fact up 19 places as well, so a nice equilibrium for the number 30 at the moment. Obviously,
Yeah.
he's resolved any form of issues that he might have encountered in qualifying.
Yeah, I figured he'd be staying pretty much with Bertoni and coming through the pack, so he's not too far behind.
That certainly isn't. I mean, Bertoni is the master of making his way through the pack. I mean, just to illustrate that, he's up 27 places from where he started. Bertoni is looking at a top 10 finish, although he's got to find some 8 seconds or so to gain on Murakami, but still 15 minutes or so left of racing here tonight, and this Laxski Reese Perry battle still very much raging on. To the inside then goes Kane Latsky. Well, side by side, we'll have to brake late, we'll have to be brave onto the brakes and hit that inside curb of turn 1 and gets the move done. And Kane Latsky finds himself in 6th place with Jason Perry demoted to 7th place. And Reese Gedit, what can he do down the back straight towards turn 3, a place that we've seen so many overtakes in today's proceedings, but just not gonna happen on this occasion. And Reese will have to just wait his turn, but Lasky looking very, very quick at the moment and really needs to get past Perry to sort of almost have any chance of being able to catch up to the back of Jorg Miney, because Miney is absolutely flying at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. Monty's kind of driven away from these guys, has a good lead on them. So when we get to pit stops, if he has a little bobble or something, he's got a little buffer there for the guys behind him.
Yeah, it will be. As I said earlier in commentary, you tend to see a mistake from Miney, especially not 2 in 1 race. Almost 3 wide then in the background as they head through the kink of turn 11 towards turn 12. And Latsky still remains in the lead of this pack. Perry, though, trying to challenge, trying to hassle and hustle Latsky into making a mistake. And I thought Reese was getting involved in on the action as well, although it remains very much the same order that they started the lap in. But down the back straight, we know how quick these cars can be in a straight line when you've got a little bit of slipstream assistance. And does Reese feel the need to pull out, dive to the inside? Can't find a way through at the moment. 27 minutes, almost 28 minutes gone in this race. Surely Stevie pit stops are starting to get very close.
Yeah, I think they're coming. I think Antonio is just sitting still, kind of watching these guys in front of him and waiting until after the pit stops to do any hard racing. He's just going to watch Lasky and Jason Perry dice a little bit here, and then he'll peel off and make his pit stop.
And that will really decide who will be where in this race. Pit stops very crucial in the Spec Race of Fours race normally, but I think even more crucial today. Of course, these drivers have never, well, it would be very, I don't think many of them will have driven the pit lane in a racing situation, albeit at all. So that might add another sort of a throw of the dice, as it were. See Latsky still very, very, Perry very much putting pressure on Latsky as we head through turn 12. Murakami is not really making as much sort of hay up to the back of Bobby West that I would have expected him to do. Stevie, and I wonder if we're going to see Murakami dive into the pit lane, sort of really extend the final corner. No, they all go around for another lap. So drivers really don't want to be coming into the pits unless they really, really have to. But in the background there, as you just see, rounding the final corner is Bertoni, and Bertoni is looming large. Bertoni is gaining on this pack, and do not count out 12th place man Andreas Bertoni for a top 10 here today, because he is absolutely rapid at the moment.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch him week after week start at the back and climb 25, 30, 40 positions sometimes. It's really, like I said, it's just a perfect example of taking advantage of other people's mistakes.
And will these two provide him a little bit, or provide him with some more mistakes that he could capitalize on, running very, very close, almost close to contact a few laps ago. as this battle for 6th place. Reese still gaining in as we see, well, this is a little bit of a change for the race lead, although it could be, I should say. Castro gaining a lot on Pinero in the last few laps. Both of them dive into the pit lane, so first and second coming into the pits, and so is the 964 car. That's Hiratsky with a very damaged front end, so he's clearly fallen foul of the racing circuit somewhere on the previous laps or so. But Naselli and Green both go for another lap, so Pinero and Castro, the first of our front runners to come into the pits.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they do as Lasky pulls off of that group and makes his pit stop as well.
So Lasky, another driver then that wants to get into the pits as earlier than the drivers around him. As we see Dudu Castro getting a better pit stop, and Dudu Castro will come out ahead of the 16 car of Marco Pinero, and that's crucial because if it all works out in roughly the way that we're expecting, Dudu Castro will be your new race leader, although the 73 runs a little bit wide through turn 2. But Stevie, just sort of explain to our viewers, how could that have happened? How could he have gained so much time in the pits?
Well, Marco Pinero was leading the race for a long time, and that's using the most fuel. When Dudu's sitting there in second and third using the draft, he's not using quite as much fuel. So when he makes a pit stop, it's going to be a little bit shorter. That one was a bit shorter than I expected, but he pulled it off. Hopefully a second and a half difference. So hopefully he got enough fuel to make it to the end. We'll see.
That was exactly the question I was going to pose to you, Stevie, is does Castro have enough fuel to get to the end, or has he underfueled just a little bit? As we see Maurizio Naselli, a driver, or the next driver to come into the pits, is Jason Green decides to go for one more lap at least. Miney as well heading into the pits, as Perry and Bobby West can also add their names to the drivers heading into the pits. So does Lesnoy. So certainly pit window open at the moment.
I think my real window is about to close. Typically there's about 30 minutes of fuel is what we start with. Some of the times, depending on the track, it'll stretch a little bit longer. You can see here we're at 32 minutes, but there's not much fuel out there left. So the guys that haven't pitted are going to have to pit here like now.
I mean, we have already seen this season drivers managing to complete the race distance without stopping for extra fuel. Do you think that this is a racetrack that sort of suits that style of fuel saving, or do you think it is simply an impossibility to be able to make it without stopping?
This one might be one of the ones, if you play it right, could possibly lead to a longer fuel stint and maybe make it to the end, but it's kind of depends on how you drive it. If you drive it hard during the race, you're not going to do it. If you back off and you're slow and kind of midfield and taking your time with it, you might be able to pull it off. So I just don't know. I'm just like everybody else. I'm new to this one, but yeah, we got Green in now too.
So Jason Green cannot make it to the end without coming in for a little bit of a splash and dash. I do believe that might be Antonio Rees just rounding the final corner. Yes, it is. So Antonio Rees going for another racing lap. That will be his 22nd lap on that tank of fuel. Murakami, another driver who is going to have to come into the pits, but Tony is, I mean, so Petoni's gone for another lap, I should say. Green exiting the pits. Naselli getting past Murakami. It's going to be close between Green and Naselli. So Naselli is coming through turn 1. So Castro ahead of Pinero. Naselli in third. Green really coming out from where he was in the race earlier on. And Green will exit the pits in 6th place. A little bit of a lap car there to navigate his way past. That's G. Nelson and Flavio and Darlo. And Darlo's been lapping fairly off the pace for the last few laps or so. 1 minute 32.0, the last lap for him. So Castro leads the way, Naselli second. Rees and Bertoni, two drivers yet to stop in this race. Add Lynn to that list as well. Really fascinating race playing itself out. And we've still, Stevie, got 6 minutes left to go.
Yeah, it's going to get tight here. I think Pinero is running down Castro, so the last few laps, and then we see him go a little wide and maybe lose a little bit here. So he's really pushing it, trying to run down Castro now.
The biggest question is, does Castro have enough fuel to get to the end of the race? Reese does have to stop, so scrap any sort of ideas that I might have had about him being able to go to the end without stopping, and so in fact does Bertoni. So Bertoni head to the pit lane. So Andreas Bertoni, another driver, having to stop for fuel as they run the final corner. The only driver yet to stop, I think, is Yangzi Lin, and I don't think Lin, as for Vini as well, another driver to have not graced the pit lane with his presence, and there he is into the pits, is Favini. So I do believe it's only Lin now who has not come in for their pit stop, although I think it's getting less and less likely that that will be a valid strategy to get to the end of the race in any form of timely manner. Bertoni in 9th place, exiting the pits just ahead of West. Bobby West, though, will make his way through. Latsky now getting involved as Bertoni heads out in the middle of this fighting pair. And Bertoni will have that outside line, the almost NASCAR-esque line of running higher that gives him the better run out of the corner, as by the time they head to the braking zone of turn 3, and Bertoni can just go around the outside of the pair of them. And wow, Andrea Bertoni is up into 9th place after starting, well, I do believe, second from last. A supreme effort once again from Bertoni.
Yeah, it's just amazing, isn't it? Just week after week, he continually does it. And so many others, when you're coming through the field like that, it is so easy to get caught up. You're faster than them, and you tend to brake later. Like I explained earlier, the slower cars are braking before you, and you're not used to it. And typically, somebody faster coming through the field gets caught up in somebody else's mistake or error, and Antonio or Andreas Bertoni just seems to evade that and week after week make his way through the field.
Really supreme driving on show from the number 11 car. 37 minutes then gone of this 40-minute race, as we see this pair heading down the back straight. Bertoni very close to the back of Perry. Perry not too far away from Reese as well, so that could be a little bit of an interesting fight towards the end of the race. Once again, Lin, Stevie, has not come in to the pits. Do we think Lin is trying to get to the end? Jorg Meine is catching him at a fairly rapid rate of knots. We ride on board with Lin. Stevie, what's your expert opinion when it comes to is Lin trying to fuel save?
He definitely could be. I mean, we all know he's the one that did it before, and nobody thought he could do it. So he's almost made his bed now. We've only got, what, two minutes left, so it's kind of too late to come in. He's made his bed. He's got to try to go for it now.
Very obviously there, Lin fuel saving, clutching in, trying to eke out as much fuel as possible. It's almost like he's on the M25, and well, there's a petrol station that's just a little bit too far away. Jorg Meine now getting close to the back of Lin, and well, Stevie, Lin, if he's trying to go for this fuel saving strategy, he's going to have no ability to defend from Jorg Meine. The only sort of saving grace for Lin is that the gap between Meine and Reese is some 9 seconds, which will give him a little bit of a buffer. But Lin, he's really driving with one hand. He's sort of really affected by his fuel saving strategy.
Yeah, he's got to lift. He's got to coast, do whatever it takes. Meine is. We've all seen that this whole race. He is fast, so it'll just it's just a matter of time before Meine gets by. We're going to be on the last lap. Lin obviously is going to win the race, but he may get a top 10 out of it.
We see Meine heads to the inside of turn 3. Lin tries to hold on for all his might, but he really is driving with one hand tied behind his back. And by the time they exit turn 4, Jorg Meine is up into 5th place, and Lin demoted to 6th. Lap traffic up ahead. That's going to get very interesting, but this is your battle for the race. Lead in Dudu Castro under pressure from Marco Pinheiro. Pinheiro gaining little by little on the last lap, 2 laps or so, and Pinheiro really just edging closer to Castro, but is that going to be enough of an overlap? They round the final corner, white flag is in the air, 1 lap to go. Bertoni is past Perry. Bertoni is up into 8th place, but Stevie, I'm going to give you the impossible job as a commentator. Who do you think's on for the race win today? Is it Castro or will Pinheiro reign supreme? Oh, Castro's wide! And as I said, it all
you gave
fell
it to
and
me at the perfect time. Yeah, I could call Pinheiro at the perfect time.
And I think that's the commentator's cards in action right there.
Yeah.
So Castro now trying to find his way past Pinheiro. This race has really been turned on its head in the final of 2 miles of racing. Pinheiro just has to keep it on the circuit, and Castro, he's got nothing to lose. He just needs to try and find a way past Marco Pinheiro through turns 5, through turn 6 we go, up towards the braking zone of turn 7. Where can Castro make the place? Where can he make the move? Stevie, where is the best opportunity on the racing circuit?
And I don't know, turn 3 was probably the best, but we're well past that. So Marco's looking good for this one.
So the expert opinion says Marco is looking good for the race win. Castro gets a good exit. Down to the braking zone of turn 12 we go. Look from Castro almost colliding with the back of Pinheiro, and was that Castro's final chance to get the move done, to make his way up into first place. Oh, Castro drifting through turn 14, and all chances have really faded away for Pinheiro. For Castro as they round the final corner to cross the line. It will be Marco Pinheiro taking the race victory. Castro in second. Naselli will finish in third place. Green in fourth. Yorgmini will finish in 5th place, but there is Yang Si Lin. Lin has not made his pit stop in today's race. Will come across the line to finish in 6th place. A remarkable result for Lin. Miney does just about, though, finish ahead of Lin. And then Reese 7th, Bertoni 8th, Perry 9th, Latsky 10th, and Favini and Bradshaw having a little bit of a battle out on the circuit. But what a race we had for you today, Stevie. Spectre Racer Fords never fails to deliver.
No, the car, the way they race, and this group is just, you're never disappointed. It's always good racing up and down the field, first or for 35th. You're going to have good racing out there. Like we saw that last lap, Dudu Castro really sent it in and tried his all. But as I commented earlier in the broadcast, you do too much, you get angry tires. They don't like you, and you're going sliding. And that's what happened to Dudu. He kind of lost his momentum with overheating the tires on the last couple of corners.
That certainly was the case as the last few drivers now come across the line. Short just beating out Gradwell as they cross the line. So I think Gradwell might have been running out of fuel, although that is purely speculation. That was a battle over 23rd place, and everybody now coming across the line. And Deselli, unusually, Stevie, for him, finishes 6 seconds off the race victory. Naselli did have the pace today, especially in qualifying, but might not have had it in the race pace. But I tell you what, Stevie, take us through your race results.
Yeah, our winner, Marco Pinheiro, him and Dudu Castro put on a hell of a show. You saw Dudu leading after the pit stops up until the last couple of corners. So congrats to Marco Pinheiro. Dudu gets the silver medal, and Mauricio holds on for the bronze. He seemed to be there the first part of the race, and after the pit stops, Mauricio kind of lost the little draft they had and kind of fell off. Jason Green holds on for a 4th, and Yorgmani, the Masters, gets top 5 out of that for the Masters win. Yangtze Lin, as we saw, held on with no pit stop, gets a 6th. Antonio Reese, the 2nd Masters, in 7th. And then Andreas Bertoni, all the way from the back of the grid up to an 8th, top 10 for him. Good show for him. Jason Perry has been with us for a little while. He returns and gets a 9th. And Kane Lasky finished out the top 10. Bobby West in 11th. Chris Murakami, the 3rd Masters, in 12th. Jeff Richer. Kuzma Lesnoy is our first Spec 2 driver. Jeff Jacobson, Andreas Favini gets the silver in the Spec 2. Adam Bradshaw and Kurt Nunez run out the top 18. And 19th, we've got Jim Brewster. And 20th is Ian Gibson for the bronze in the Spec 2. Paul Jackson, and Stephen Mitchell, Brian Short, Tom Gradwell could have been running out of gas there on the last lap. And then Barry in 25th. Darren Kuhn, 26. Jesus Rodriguez, Flavio Andalo was a lap down. Sean Vincent, Michael G. Nelson, Gianni Longan, Jeff Canner, Marcus Burkett, Mira Horatsky, Mark Sherman, and then we get down to Megan Overstreet had some issues. She was 4 laps down, and Mark Carter 6 laps down. We get the guys that didn't finish, Nick Carty, Matthias Weiger, and Kerry Wilbolt for 40 cars for this round 6, halfway through the season.
What first half of the season it has been. As we see the customary spec racer Ford demolition derby at the end of the race, and we have a special treat for you. I think we can have a chat to our second place finisher, Dudu Castro. And Dudu, welcome to the commentary booth. That was a great race between yourself and Marco Pinheiro. You almost had the race win. Unfortunately for you, lost it in the final lap, but that looked like great fun out there.
Yes, Johnny. It's kind of crazy because you have the 2 leaders, on the last lap, on the last straight, and the lapped car just simply ignored everything. He just his car just jumped. I don't know, maybe some net code or something like that. I got scared, and that happened. And I called him on the radio before, "Hey, guy, we are getting close. We're getting close." It's sad because I was doing a conscient race. I knew Marco and Mauricio were gonna play together. They did that on the quali. As soon as I understood that Mauricio wouldn't follow Marco, then I passed Mauricio. Then I probably saved a little bit more fuel than Marco. Then I had a better pit stop than him. And then that happened at the end. It's sad, but it happens. It is race.
Yeah, it certainly is, although understandably disappointing. I do want to sort of touch on that pit stop. It's a 1.5 seconds quicker than Pinheiro. Was that just a case of you fuel saving in the first stint, or were you a little bit more aggressive with how much fuel that you took for the second half of the race?
No, I think I was a bit aggressive. I didn't save it too much. I saved it maybe half a liter. But just for you to have an idea, this car stops with 0.4, and I've ended the race with 0.46. So I was right on the edge of the amount of fuel I should have on my tank. So yeah, that would be my only chance to win too. So that's what I did. But yeah, it was a good race, and congrats to Marco, and I don't know who was third, maybe Mauricio. They did a great race too.
It was Maurizio, and yeah, certainly concur. A great race by all 3 of you. Well, thank you so much for coming to talk to us in the commentary booth. Before we let you go and celebrate, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out to at all?
Wow, for sure, for Steve, that put everything together for us. Of course, you guys on the broadcast, all the drivers that make this thing happen. And yep, that's it. Thank you for all.
Well, thank you very much, Dudu, for coming to talk to us in the commentary booth. And once again, congratulations on your second place.
Thank you, sir.
And wow, that was a really fascinating insight into the fuel saving techniques and how close these drivers are running to the margins. Stevie, have you managed to find anybody for a quick chat?
I don't. Let's see. We got York Monty. We got York Monty, if we could pull him in. Hello, York. Welcome to the booth.
Yeah, good evening, gentlemen.
Congrats on another win. Looked like you had to work a little bit. You fell off there early on. Did you get a slowdown?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, the guys were braking about 3/4 earlier than usually, and I had to lock up. Otherwise, I would have smacked into everybody in front of me. So I locked up, went straight. Lucky-wise, nobody on the side. And then I got, of course, a slowdown, yeah.
Yeah, it was what we thought. And you dropped back quite a ways, but you really put your head down and came back through. How was that working through traffic and catching those guys again?
A few of them were actually quite nice. They let me pass. I don't know why sometimes, but they let me pass. Maybe they believed I'm gonna force myself through, but I'm actually not. but at the end I saw Yonchi in front of me and thought, okay, that's my goal, to catch him. And yeah, I did. And I tried to defend as much as possible. And yeah, I'm actually quite happy about my place.
Yeah, you had a really good finish there, top 5 overall, still dominating the Masters. You mentioned Yangtze following him. He did not do a pit stop, so he was kind of at a disadvantage to your speed. So good job.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah.
Not any other comment from my side.
yeah, we didn't expect it, but once again, and again, great finish, good race overall, good battles. Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, actually to all the drivers. This race today was actually great. Yesterday was a bit, okay, a bit difficult. But this race was great again. Was most of the time was really fair, hard fighting, but fair fighting, and I like that. And of course to our broadcaster, Apex Racing, thanks a lot for putting that show all the time on. And I always try to convince people to watch it, or at least to join our league. And of course of our sponsor, don't ask me the name again, I forgot it already again, sorry.
Boys.
Okay, thanks a lot for remembering me again. I'm getting older, so I can't remember those things anymore.
You're not going to catch up with me, though.
No, not really. I'm still a bit younger than you are, so...
Yep.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys. It was really
right.
fun to drive again.
Thanks, Jorg, and I will see you on track next week, so I'm going to try to chase you down.
Yeah, okay, go for it. Okay, good night, guys.
Good night.
Always love talking to Jorg Mani there. Another Masters race win under his belt. But, you know, Rudskogen today, Stevie, certainly did not disappoint. Supremely good track, supremely good racing. And I think everybody's left with a massive smile on their face.
Yeah, it's another one of the variety, right? You had the draft of Watkins Glen, and this one you had a tight, twisty track, kind of like Tsukuba to begin with. It looks wide, but there's really one racing line, so you have to really work with each other to get passes done and then follow through. So a lot of fun, some good racing. We've got a good thing going here. I can't speak enough for these weekend warriors, week after week, what kind of a job they do.
Yes, certainly agree with that. Well, that's us done for this week's racing action. Next week we head to Italy and to Imola, and that should really provide some more great action, such a historical circuit, so do tune in for that. But until then, my name has been Sebastian Bosch-Williams. Alongside me in the commentary booth has been Stevie Ray, and in the production has been Jonathan Grabowski. And thank you so much for tuning in and watching today. And we'll see you in 1 week's time as the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warrior Series heads to Italy.